Hello, everyone. Dr. Vicky here, speaking to you from my garden at the Seeds of Transformation Healing Center. Uh, it's time to look at the last week of July 2024. It is a doozy. It starts with a doozy of a full moon. That starts on Sunday, the 21st. It's a pretty early full moon, as it were. And a lot of things happen on the day of the full moon, and then just a few other things happen after that. So let's get started. I'm going to make this a slideshow so you can see it a little bit easier. Um, let's see how I do. Oh, I did it. All right. So we're looking at this is just sort of an overview of the week here. And we are looking, this is the tree of life for this week. Um July 2024. I have put in the signs of all the planets. We have, of course, Neptune in Pisces, Pluto in Aquarius, Uranus still in Taurus, Saturn in Pisces. If you notice, Mars, this is the Sephiroth of Mars, is in Gemini, as is Jupiter in Gemini. And we can see that both these are in Gemini. This is the path for 2024. This is the path for the month of July, and this is the path for the month July, the seventh month. So when we add 7 to universal year 8, we get a 15/6, meaning that this month is the devil month. And the devil is always about choice. Are you going to choose the light, or are you going to choose the darkness? And so the light and the darkness are the choices that we have this month. And a lot has happened, especially since the new moon that happened back, was it on the 5th, I think, and in Cancer. And we've already had previous, at the end of last month, a full moon in Capricorn. It was at, I think, either the first or second degree of Capricorn. And this full moon that we're having come Sunday is at the last degree of Capricorn, which is a significant degree because that's the degree Pluto is going to be sitting in from September to November 20th, at the end of this year. All right, so we have the sun in Leo. We also have Mercury in Leo this week, and we have Venus in Leo. It's also the week of the last quarter moon. When the sun is in Leo, the earth is always in the opposite sign, which in the case of Leo is Aquarius. So let's just jump in here. We start with Sunday, the 21st. That's a 36-9 vibration day. That is the 10 of Wands. We'll be seeing that symbology soon enough. We have a full moon at 30 degrees of Capricorn, keeping in mind that this is the degree of Pluto when it does go back into Capricorn for those around 3 months, or a little less than 3 months. Okay, so the secret meaning of men responsible for executive decisions in the world, in world affairs. So that is the symbol of the full moon at 30 degrees of Capricorn, but it's in opposition to the sun in Cancer, daughters of the American Revolution. All right, so that's the first thing that we see happening on the 21st. It occurs at, I believe it's 6, I want to say 6:12 or 6:17 a.m. on Sunday, and so you can change that for your time zone. On that day, we just don't have like that full moon. Believe me, that full moon all by itself would be just fine. But we have other things happening, and they do happen after the full moon. We have Venus making a sextile to Jupiter. It's a waxing sextile. It's an opening sextile. It opens the lines of communication. Venus and Jupiter are both considered benefics, and they're also social planets. So it's a highly social time, actually, at this time. We also have Mercury making a first quarter square to Uranus. This is probably, well, the opposition of the sun and the moon is always a little bit fraught. As we know, full moons are generally pretty emotional, if nothing else. Uh, and the sextile of Venus and Jupiter is an opportunistic. It's a lovely aspect. The square, however, is problematic generally. It requires us to make a change of some sort, and there's a change in the way we're thinking about something. Perhaps we're thinking about going in a more out of the box direction. That square is with Mercury at 27 of Leo and Uranus still at 27 degrees of Taurus. That was the degree that it conjoined Mars back on the 15th. And we also have the sun making a trine to Neptune. The sun at the last degree of Cancer is trining Neptune, which is at the last degree of Pisces. And then lastly, and not leastly in any way, shape, or form, the planet Mars, which just moved into Gemini and will be there until September 4th, moves into the first degree of Gemini and trines Pluto, which is at the first degree of Aquarius. You remember Pluto is now moving retrograde towards its rendezvous with Capricorn for one last go around, as it were, for another 220 something years or something like that. All right. I'm not being too specific on that because we're not going to be around to see it, at least not in this body, and probably not this way, but who knows what we'll see. Maybe we will. I guess things can happen, right? All right. And then lastly, I'm outside, so it's a little hard to see. So that's what happens on that day. So there's the full moon, which when we get to it, you'll see is a very potent full moon. And then we also have 1, 2, 3, 4 other aspects, all of which are potent in their own right. So to say that this full moon energy is complex and complicated would be an understatement. On Monday, the 22nd, the sun moves into Leo. Now, Leo is a sign that's ruled by the sun, and so it's probably the most powerful position for the sun, except maybe for Aries, because the sun is exalted in Aries, and it's just held up to a little higher standard in Aries. But it is in its potency in Leo, as the fixed fire sign, the sustainer of the spirit, connected to the heart and the heart chakra. And then on, let's see, the 23rd, the next day, because the sun moved into the first degree of Leo, it actually then makes an opposition to Pluto, which is at the first degree of Aquarius. So when we have these changes, we have Neptune at the last degree of Pisces. We have Pluto at the first degree of Aquarius. So whenever a planet moves from one sign to another, it's somehow touching that last degree of Pisces. Now, in this case with the sun, it made a trine because Pisces is a water sign and Cancer is a water sign, right? As it moves into Leo, then it opposes Pluto, and it's an opposition because, of course, excuse me, I pressed my finger touched something. Like when I try to change it, it doesn't change. I breathe on it and it changes. Okay. As soon as the sun moves into Leo, it's going to make the opposition to Pluto because Pluto is in its opposite sign. On the 25th of July, we have Mercury making a waxing in conjunct to Neptune. This is occurring at 30 degrees of Leo. Now Mercury is moving out of a sign and then moving into a new sign, right? And it moves and it ingresses into Virgo. Now it's especially important ingressing into Virgo because Mercury rules Virgo. And so it's powerfully placed in Virgo. Mercury will be going retrograde in Virgo, but it doesn't happen until next month. Retrograde starts at about 5 degrees of Virgo. When it goes retrograde, goes back into Leo, then turns around and finds its way back into Virgo. But that is so the retrograde, which begins next month, is in the sign of Virgo and Leo. But we do have Mercury ingress into Virgo on the 25th. So let's stick to this month because there's plenty to still talk about. On Friday, the 26th, Venus makes an waxing inconjunct to Saturn. This is a Virgo inconjunct. It requires mental adjustments. And Venus has to do with what we value, and Saturn has to do with reality. And so we may find that we're going to have to change our minds about things, make some adjustments in our mindset in order for, because reality will always win in this case. We also have on that day Mercury making a waxing inconjunct to Pluto. Now, I want to point out that Mercury on Thursday makes the inconjunct to Neptune, moves into Virgo, and then makes an inconjunct to Pluto. And Pluto at the first degree of Aquarius, and Neptune at the last degree of Pisces are actually in a sextile to each other, very close, only a degree away. And so this creates a yod with the fickle finger of fate, or the fickle finger of God, or the finger of God pointing at that Mercury in Virgo. And so the Virgo, Mercury being our mind, Virgo, how we fix what's broken, really. The transpersonal planets of Neptune and Pluto are going to be influencing that Virgo Mercury. And so there's extra evolutionary stress on the minds at that time, okay? At the mind. And then on Saturday, the 27th, we have the last quarter moon in Taurus. Last quarter moons are always crisis in consciousness, crisis in thought. Whenever we have quarter moons, which are squares, whether it's a first quarter, which is a crisis in action, or a last quarter, which is a crisis in consciousness, either way, something has to change. In the case of the first quarter square, which this is not, we need a change in the way we're going about doing something, a change in action. But with this last quarter square, it's about a change in thought, a change in thought. So I know we're at a place where we're all feeling very insecure, and we want things to calm down, and they're not coming down. And I think because of that, we're holding our positions very, very tightly. And I think that while it's important to have a perspective, I think we have to be open to the changes that may come our way in order to navigate, because in order to survive, the thing that you need the most is adaptability. And now that we have Mars in Gemini, it might be a little bit easier to do that. While Mars was in Taurus, it was very difficult to adapt because Taurus is not an adaptable sign, even though Uranus has been in there for any number of years. Okay, so let's continue and let's look at each one of these. The first thing we'll look at is the full moon. This is the full moon at 30 degrees of Capricorn, 2908, the Sun, 2908. This is for Washington, D.C., so my apologies to other places. But I figure it's pretty important right now, considering the situation we find ourselves in. We have, as I do this, we have one presidential candidate there was an assassination attempt on him, and the other presidential candidate who has been a good president for the most part and brought us out of COVID and made changes that will have repercussions years from now, is being challenged by his own party, which is kind of unexpected. However, that the Mars Uranus conjunction that squared Donald Trump's chart also opposed Joe Biden's chart. So Donald Trump would have, something shocking would have happened. It was square his Mars. And so it was unfortunately a violent attempt. And then with Joe, It's opposing his sun and his Venus. So it, in a way, in opposition to his values, perhaps, and his person, his personhood. And I know it's been very painful for a lot of people and also very frustrating for others because we really do want to have a vital president. But it's hard to, you know, say goodbye to somebody who's really been so very good for us. And I know not everybody agrees with that, but for the most part, I don't agree with everything. Certainly myself, I definitely have issues with his Israel-Gaza policy, but I also understand that we're not always seeing everything. And that can go both ways, right? That can go both ways. All right. So let's look at this, the Sabian symbols. We know we talked about that secret meeting. And the Daughters of the American Revolution. I want to just point that out. The Daughters of the Rev, because I didn't really talk about that symbol. The secret meeting of men responsible for executive decisions in world affairs, opposing the Daughters of the Revolution. Conservative elements in society have the function of holding on to what is excellent and special from the past, a respect for tradition. So there's just so many ways that you could talk about this. Respect for tradition, is that respect for Joe Biden? Respect for tradition, is that the respect for democracy? Is the secret meeting of men responsible for executive decisions in world affairs? Are these government officials? Are these business guys? Are these oligarchs? Who are these people? It's all secret. So on some level, I think that it pays for us to be informed, to be aware, to be adaptable, not to just assume that, everybody is telling us the truth necessarily, but perhaps suspend judgment at this time until we see how things work out, because there are only certain things you have power to influence. And of course, the most powerful thing that you have is the power to influence your own life and your own heart and align yourself with your divine source. Okay. All right. So this is so I want to also point out with this full moon, because this is a pretty powerful full moon. As you can see, the full moon is conjunct Pluto here. And if it's conjunct Pluto, then it means it's opposing the sun, right? And then in a couple of days, we know once the sun moves into Leo, we're going to have that exact opposition to Pluto in Aquarius. We also have Uranus here at 26.5, trining this moon and is sextiling the sun. And so it brings in that Uranian out of the box energy in a flow. That's a flow for change. The moon in in Capricorn can be older folk, right? Older folk. All right. And then it's also sextile the sun, which opens the lines of communication to progressive ideas and the like. Then we have Neptune, if we can't forget Neptune, because Neptune is making a trine to the moon. No, making a trine to the sun. There's Neptune, 2950, 2906, a nice trine to the sun, and a sextile to the moon. So the three transpersonal planets are affecting this full moon. The conjunction and opposition of Pluto is probably the most stressful. The other two are kind of helpful. And so Neptune being a source energy and spirit and the divinity, and Uranus being our higher mind, we have help. And so we can ask spirit, and we can ask our guides, and we can ask our own higher minds, our higher self, for the perspective that we down here on planet Earth, excuse me, I'm trying to cross my legs. Ow, I can't do that. Okay. I know I'm jumping. I know my little picture's jumping around a lot, and I apologize for that. Just trying to get a good position. I'm sort of lounging in a lounge chair, which isn't the best position, but it's been a tough week. Okay. So we have all those now there is another transpersonal planet that was just discovered not too long ago. I think it was 2006, and that's Eris. Eris is actually square the axis of this full moon. So even Eris has her little fingers in this one. And Eris, of course, is the goddess of discord. She's also the goddess who is revolutionary in her nature. She doesn't like elitists. She doesn't like elitism. She is, to a certain extent, more aligned to the common folk. She knows what it's like to be ostracized and thrown out because she seems too crass or too cruel for humanity, or for the elite. Anyway, I could go into the story about Eris. I've told it a number of times, as the purveyor who etched to the fairest on the golden apple. You can check that out, Mythology of Eris, if you haven't heard that story. But she's at 26 degrees of Aries, and now she's been in Aries since 1925. And she's been quite a bit of wreaking havoc over the last number of years because Uranus made a conjunction to her when it was at the end of Aries. And she's been squaring Pluto consistently. She's still pretty much squaring Pluto, although the intensity has dribbled off a little bit, but not much. So she's been, causing her trouble, as it were. But she's at 26 of Aries, and it says, a man possessed of more gifts than he can hold, avoiding overwhelm by development of discrimination. So Eris is saying, well, I don't think Eris is saying calm down, because that's not really her thing. She is activating that axis, though. She's creating a need to uh maybe give up a way of feeling, and a willingness to um take an action for your own best interest, perhaps. So we'll see how that works out. There's just so much going on. It's going to be hard to tease out what's causing what, but know that this is a time of high stress, and also of potent transformation. And with this kind of transformation, there's nothing you can do to stop it. So don't try to stop it. Go with it. Go with the flow. That's the only thing we have going for us, going with the flow right now. So um the full moon, okay, I've said this, I said everything that's here. Conjunct Pluto, trine Uranus, sextile Neptune, the sun, um opposite Pluto, trine Neptune, and sextile Uranus. So lots of outer worldly energy affecting this. Um, the degree of this moon is also the degree of the Sun-Pluto conjunction that happened on the 20th of January, 2024. And it is the degree that Pluto will be in for its last little foray into Capricorn. So that is going to all be connected. Now, notice the vibration for the day is a 9. So we know that there's something coming to an end. Perhaps, hopefully, it's the end of oppression. All right, let's continue here. Now, on the same day, because everything wants to happen on that day, it seems, we have Venus make that sextile to Jupiter. And again, these are charts for the US, so thank you. Actually, this chart has a Sag rising, which is a Jupiter-ruled sign. Here's Jupiter in the house of uh, friends and well, not friends so much as partners and open enemies. Okay, right there. And it's sextiling. Is that what it's doing? Yeah, it's sextiling. Where's Venus? Where are you, Venus? Venus up here in Leo, in the 8th house. So Venus sextile Jupiter, opening the lines of communication. Venus is at 13 degrees of Leo, an old sea captain rocking on his porch, actually. Peaceful contemplation. The lessons and messages of life are complex, and we gain much from reflection and assimilation. Reflection and depth, assimilation of our experiences. Sextile Jupiter at 13 of Gemini, a great musician at a piano. When we can find the confidence and inspiration to walk our own path, Creative and free, we become a source of inspiration for others who cannot. So it's important for us to really sort of take this time to go within, to contemplate life, to contemplate choices, to contemplate the life we want to bring in. And for those of us who aren't under the gun, so to speak, or the bombs, or the are being stressed out by things like famine and all these terrible things we see in the world as the governments break down, or as other governments take over other, I mean, it really is a breakdown of the systems. And of course, with Pluto and Capricorn, we would expect there to be breakdown of governmental systems. But it doesn't mean that they all have to, you have to throw out the baby with the bathwater here. What is still standing may be worth preserving, right? Okay, so we have that. So that's actually a very positive. I'll be right up. That's a very positive aspect. I just got called for supper, so hopefully I can get this done. All right. You might see me next in a different place. 21st, same day, Mercury makes that first quarter square to Uranus. New ideas sprout up as we reach a crisis. Action is needed, action taken on new ideas that will bring more fairness are highlighted. Because of the fixed nature, there can be stubbornness, explosions, and breaking down as a result of increased pressure. So these squares, especially because we're dealing with fixed signs, can be very explosive in their nature. So we have, this is part of the Mercury-Uranus synod that began on May 31st of 2024 at 25 degrees of Taurus, a large, well-kept public park, participation in community responsibilities. So the Mercury-Uranus conjunction that started this synod deals with our responsibilities to each other and how we have to sort of maintain for each other, okay? Now we have Mercury at 27 degrees of Leo, the light of a new dawn. Everything has its alpha and its omega, and each part of this eternal cycle is blessed with light, being renewed moment by moment. Square Uranus at 27 degrees of Taurus, an old native woman selling beads, the wisdom of an elder. So again, we see these themes of new versus old. And how do we navigate this time? How do we really navigate? We can see why what has come up at this time, right? Then we have the trine between the Sun and Neptune, right? Cancer, Pisces. This is a creative self-expression of the seeds planted at the Sun-Neptune conjunction. That actually occurred back in May 17th of 2024 at 28 degrees of Pisces. So the seed planted at that time, success in mastering the earth plane is measured by our ability to win abundance without becoming a slave to greed. And we can see plenty of people out there who are a slave to greed. They see an opportunity to take the power. And so there's a lot of power struggles and power grabs at this time. It requires us to be in alignment with our deepest knowing, okay, and shining our light as bright as possible in order to uncover the shenanigans and direct our lives in a direction that is not just helpful for ourselves, but for humanity in general, and perhaps America, here in America anyway, in specific. Now the sun is at 30 degrees of Cancer. There's that daughter of the American Revolution again, right? Conservative elements in society have the function of holding on to what is excellent and special from the past, respect for tradition in a trine, which is a flowing energy to Neptune at 30 degrees of Pisces, a great stone face, becoming our ideal. There is no right answer or best version of anything. We make it up according to how we feel or think we should. We become whatever we idealize. So the power here is to, in a way, visualize the ideal outcome and not necessarily attach people to it. I think that's helpful. You know, see our future as a bright one. where we're working together, we're working with other countries, where we're quelling the violence and the anger and all those things that keep people in hell, right? But don't attach names or things to it, because this is an idealized version, right? This is an idealized version. All right, so there's a power. Now remember, this is all happening with the full moon. So this power is within the full moon itself, and let's utilize it. And then we have Mars making a trine to Pluto. Now, Mars and Pluto have a special relationship. This trine, which is a trine of self-expression, and trines have flow. So Pluto as the world soul and Mars as action, there's a flow from the soul, but Pluto can also be not such good things, right? It can be, especially in Aquarius, it can be technology overtaking, using technology as a weapon. We just had a big outage, cyber attacks and the like. They said it was some sort of Windows thing, but what do we know? We don't, unless you're like in the biz, how do you know? So this is also a danger of that. So we do have to be aware of it, but it's not just about danger. You see, it's not just about danger. This is a highly creative time. So you can take actions. The energy doesn't care what you do with it. The energy is the energy. What you do with it is your free will, and that's what's important here. Okay, so this is unconscious desires of the soul are brought into consciousness through the actions of Mars. This began at the Mars-Pluto conjunction at 1 degree of Aquarius, an old Adobe mission in California, lasting values. Now Pluto's at the same degree, so we're still with the lasting values, but now we have Gemini at 1 degree. We have Mars at 1 degree of Gemini, a glass bottom boat, discovering new dimensions. The unconscious mind holds as many secrets as the ocean depths, which can be revealed to one who inquires, uncovering new dimensions of life. Do you see the opportunity we have here? If we're caught up in fear and all curled up on ourselves and moaning and bemoaning, doesn't help. It doesn't help. Let it go. Let it go, because you can't hold on to it anyway. And who wants to be burdened like this guy, right? Look at this poor guy down here. Okay. All right. And I just want to point out, this is the tree of life on the day. And I've put some things in here. Here's the full moon in Capricorn. Here's the sun and the moon. The full moon is always in opposition. It's activating this blue path right here. That's the path of the mystic. This is the path that connects the higher and the lower self. This is where we find our holy guardian angel. Call in your guardian angels. Venus, sextile Jupiter. This is the Sephiroth of Venus. This is the sextile of Jupiter. This is the sextile. This path is the Wheel of Fortune. So opportunities for changes in fortune. Okay. Mercury square Uranus. Mercury is down here on the tree of life. Uranus is up here. There is not a path that is direct for them. So I put a path in, like a virtual path, I guess it would be called, with the square here, and we can see that it goes sort of. It's almost like a band now, like a Miss Universe thing, right? Except it's red and it's a square. So this is pretty powerful energy. Although I will say, because there isn't a direct connection here, what has to happen is the energy has to move through by other means, right? It can go this way, it can go this way, it can go this way. So this is an experience, be different for different folks. Sun trine Neptune. Neptune is found here. The sun is found here. This is the path of the high priestess, and there's a trine there. So something will be revealed at this time. This is a revolutionary and revelatory time. And then Mars trine Pluto. This is the Sephiroth of Mars. This is the Sephiroth of Pluto. Again, this is a virtual trine, but we can see here, this is the energy. This would be the energy, and most likely go this way. Okay. The magician, into Bina, the place of the divine feminine, down the chariot's path into Gabura. okay, into the path of the Sephiroth of Mars. So what do I have here? Awareness, harvest, opening the lines of communication to grow your relationships. It is color coded, so you can see that. Lower mind and higher mind, crisis and action, taking action for survival. Flow, flow of creative energy, the shimmering sunlight off the ocean. That's the Sun trine Neptune, and then Mars trine Pluto, the power of the world soul flowing through action. Powerful, powerful time. All right. All right. So it's a little bit later in the day, so the lighting looks different, but I'm going to try to finish this sitting outside, assuming the mosquitoes don't carry me away. So we have moved today. We've done 5 things, and we're finally on the next day that something happens. That's Monday, the 22nd of July, where the sun ingresses into Leo. The first degree of Leo is an interesting degree. We'll hear about it again because tomorrow is the opposition to Pluto. But 1 degree of Leo is a case of apoplexy, managing the fiery life force. An extreme level of emotional vitality requires an extraordinary degree of self-management to avoid danger, moderating our feelings of self-importance. I think that might be a little um, reminder to us as well. I mean, we all have our points of view and our sides of the story. But you know, it reminds me of the story of the elephant and the 3 blind men. It's the part of the elephant that you're touching. You can't assume that it is the whole story, right? Okay. So that day is a King of Cups day. All right, let us continue. Um, okay, one moment here. Okay, my battery died on my computer, so I'm back in my office. All right, so we talked about this Sun moving into Leo. And then, of course, on the next day, we have the Sun making an opposition to Pluto. This day vibrates to the Queen of Cups, a 3811 vibration. 11s are about choices, generally. It's a choice number. What direction do you want to go in? And we are given 2 sides of a story. Anytime we have an opposition between any 2 planetary bodies, there is a sense of perspective. And it is the furthest these 2 planets can be from each other around the circle of the zodiac. And so we're looking at Pluto, the outermost edge of the galaxy, and the sun, the center, excuse me, of the solar system, and the sun, the center. And so this really sort of spans the whole, it's sort of the whole enchilada in a way. Of course, Pluto is symbolic of the soul. It's in Aquarius now. Aquarius is the energy of humanitarian and raising all boats. And the sun, powerfully placed in Leo, is about the individual. It's the most subjective place, and Aquarius, the most objective place, and the most broad place because Pluto is, not including Eris, which we could include here, and Eris, may I mention, at this time is still square this axis as well. So Eris remains in a square to the axis, first to the full moon, and now to the opposition between the sun and Pluto. And so it's not just 2 sides, but there's a third side, and the third side is those people who no longer want to live under the yoke of the authorities that are in authority, whether we see it as the good side or the bad side, right? So there is this energy of breaking free. Now, I also want to point out that Mars is trine Pluto, of course, because it was trine Pluto, 2 days ago. It's still trine Pluto. and it is sextile the sun. So Mars is also connected to this opposition in helpful aspects. The trine to Pluto brings a flow from Pluto, the soul, to Mars, action, and the sun and Mars interact in a way in which the lines of communication are open. And perhaps we can see more clearly at this time. So the sun opposing Pluto is the halfway point of the Pluto-Sun synod, which began back when the sun and Pluto conjoined in the sign and in the last degree of Capricorn. That occurred on the 20th of January, 2024. And that vibration is in 2911. So the initial seed of this was an 11, and the opposition, which is the halfway point of the synodic cycle, is also an 11. The 2911 is an Aries vibration. It is the Three of Wands, right? The looking out over the horizon with all your creations beside you, trying to plan for the future. And then we have the 3811, which is the Queen of Cups, a little bit of a different energy. It's a cup energy, so it's about feelings. The Queen of Cups is actually a Scorpio vibration. And when we have the part of fortune actually in Scorpio here in the 6th house in this chart, just incidentally. Okay, so we have the sun. No, so okay, let me read this. I want to read this too, because this is very important. Remember, this was the seed energy of this, and then the opposition is the sort of the fruit on the vine. We can harvest something with the opposition. And so the initial conjunction, the secret meaning of men responsible for executive decisions in world affairs. We've heard that before. We will hear it again once Pluto goes in there, right? But this is very important, and I get this from jamesburgess.com. He has a whole a Sabian mystery school, and I'm not part of that mystery school, but I do utilize his website a lot. So I like to give him the credit for that. It's a beautiful website. He's done a lot of work. I'm sure he spent his whole, life dedicated to this, and it's pretty powerful stuff. So a resource for you as well. A group of highly awakened individuals together form the ruling executive power over world affairs, notwithstanding the rise and fall of political fashions, nations, and economic blocs. These can see what the masses do not see. Two sides must exist of this phenomena. The dark aspect is revealed as a satanic elite that selfishly controls the wealth and laws of the world. There is also a hierarchy of light beings, equally powerful, yet focused on keeping open the path to freedom and complete realization. We need to choose which group to offer our attention. Now, the sun is in 1 degree of Leo, that case of apoplexy that we spoke of, in opposition to, and the apoplexy is in opposition, which is a growing awareness to that 1st degree of Pluto, which has been very active over the last few years. The first time we saw something significant at that degree was when Saturn and Jupiter conjoined at the end of 2020 at the 1st degree of Aquarius. Some consider that the beginning of the Aquarian age. An old Adobe mission, lasting values. Some aspects of life are more important than others, and we build lasting forms for those that we want to outlive us. So this is really about what kind of future. What is that expression? A gardener is somebody who plants a tree they will never see, or something like that. Something like that, a gardener or an arborist. And so we are building for the future, and it may not be our future because, it may not be my future. I'm older, so maybe I have another 30 years if I'm healthy and aware in my life. But, there are people being born now into this world and they have to know that there is a better way than what they're being given. And I think that with connection to spirit, we can find it within ourselves, and we can be a light to shine in the direction of a peaceable world order. Building structures of survival within your group. Within your group. And on Thursday, we have Mercury make that inconjunct to Neptune. Mercury at 30 degrees of Leo, and Neptune, of course, at 30 degrees of Pisces. That day vibrates to a 40/4. That's the Princess of Cups. Good messages, as it were. Mental adjustments needed at this time. While your imagination and ideals can be a source of great inspiration, it is crucial to maintain a clear sequence of necessary actions and acknowledge your unique quirks. In doing so, you will find balance between your dreams and reality. So this is a balance between dreams and, what our mind works with and works at. And then Mercury ingresses into Virgo, right? Because it just was in the last degree of Leo, moves into Virgo. The first degree of Virgo is a man's head. That's the symbol. Learning what is significant. The way in which we are unique can best be understood by grasping the significance of exactly where we are and why. Learning what is significant in our lives and learning the significance of our lives. We all have something to contribute to this. And then on the 26th, we have Mercury in conjunct Pluto. Mercury now in Leo, in Virgo, in conjuncting Pluto at 1 degree of Virgo Aquarius. So Mercury is at the head. So what's happened here? And so here, this is actually the Pluto, let's see, Mercury. Oh, so this is Mercury in the sign. This is Mercury in, I'm sorry, in Virgo. That's the chart I use, but you can see that Pluto will soon inconjunct it, and Neptune has previously made an inconjunct to it. And so when Mercury moves into Virgo, it is in the crosshairs of a yod. And a yod requires us to make adjustments. The planets, and Mercury being the planet of the mind, and the two planets creating the yod configuration, working with each other, because those two planets, Neptune and Pluto, are in accordance, are in alignment with each other. They're communicating, they're opening the lines of communication between them, and then asking us our ability to understand and take in the information. Mercury in the perfecting sign of Virgo. In fact, yods have the energy of Virgo and Scorpio. And so both Virgo and Scorpio are signs where we need to make adjustments. In the sign of Virgo, we need to make adjustments in our mental capacity, and in Scorpio, our emotional. So this is a difficult time. It requires us to be open to change and to make the adjustments necessary in order for us to understand our unique place in this evolutionary process. Okay, and so we do also have Venus making an inconjunct to Saturn. This is Venus, of course, is what we value and what's important to us. Saturn is reality. And so we need to make adjustments in that. These are adjustments that require mental adjustment as well. And then we have the last quarter moon in Taurus. This is a crisis in thought, the sun in Leo, the moon in Taurus. Leo and Taurus deal with loyalty. And so the question is, who are we loyal to? I think the answer to that needs to be our own heart. All right, so that is the end of the story for July. Oh, there I am. Shocking to me too, as it stands. Hopefully this is helpful for you. You can check out on Ona's channel, Moonshine. We talked about this full moon You can also check out my taroscopes. They will be coming out a little bit later today, or tonight, perhaps. Or was I going to wait for tomorrow? I think I'm going to put out my taroscopes on Sunday, the day of the full moon. It'll be my gift to you, my full moon gift to you guys. So you can keep your eyes peeled for that. We also did a Mystic Sisters on my channel, and it was quite a conversation, and there's still a conversation going on there. Just remember, we're here to explore ideas and not necessarily agree with everybody or disagree with everybody. So that's the deals. Okay, guys, take care. I'll see you in August. Please take care of yourself. This is a very intense time. Things will be revealed. There are a lot of things we have no control over. You need to know the difference of what you have control over and what you don't. You always have control over how you respond. And if you find yourself responding in a way that makes you uncomfortable, find a way to get comforted. Okay, take care, everyone. Namaste.